Hey, how you doing today? Thank you for tuning into the Trish.0 show. This is the show where we speak with all sorts of event professionals and we ask them all sorts of juicy questions. And
Ah,
today's question, I know you want to know, right? Because we're going to be talking about micro weddings, and I know you want to know about this stuff, and you definitely want to know it from Irene. Irene, is it Tyndale or Tyndale?
Tyndale.
Right. All right. Good. I didn't want to get that wrong. So I'm glad I asked. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Wednesday, so hump day, yes.
Yeah, I know. Happy Hump Day. Happy. I had gotten into the habit of like kind of saying what day it was, and then I'm realizing like people just not necessarily know what day it is out there.
True.
So it's
My daughter said that to me the other day. She's like, "It's a Monday?" And I'm like, "Oh, to be a youth again."
right.
Just be 10 years old and lose, but not even lose track of time. She doesn't have to worry about time.
No, she doesn't. It's a blissful time now that the kids now that the kids are like out of school and
Hmm.
and all that thing. But so before we get into sort of like your family life and how that's sort of playing into everything, let
Hmm.
everyone know who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Irene Tyndale. I am the Chief Event Officer of Irene Tyndale Wedding and Events based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been in the industry for 20 plus years and have been a business owner for almost 8 years.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean it's a great business to be in, COVID or not.
It just makes it a little bit more interesting. I mean, that's what we're planners for. We're not only planners to make it to do events when things are great, we're hired to take care of all the uncertainties.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you bring up. So years ago, I when I first started, people would ask me, like, why would we necessarily want to hire you? Because everything was moving to online and different things. And I said, well, you don't really hire me for when things go right, right? Like you hire me
Hmm.
so that things don't go wrong. You hire me so that then when they do go wrong, because they will go wrong, that you have someone competent that can manage that process, that can
Absolutely.
manage that sort of
The madness.
damage control. Yeah,
The madness.
yeah,
It's
yeah. Manage
organized chaos
yeah. It
behind.
is organized
Yeah,
chaos.
there's things that happen at weddings that I tell people I'll take it to my grave. We've saved many of grooms from some things, and just in general, just I always tell my clients, I will only come to you if it's going to cost you money,
Right,
if the building is burning down.
right.
Other than that, I'm fighting your battles for you behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to do that with such a serene, sense of, professionalism, and no matter how hard you want to kick someone's teeth in because they're just being a jerk,
Yes.
like you have to deal with all the things. You have to deal with all the things, and I would imagine that you have two children.
Hmm.
They're younger children,
Hmm.
so I would imagine that kind of that is another extra special layer to.
Well, my husband makes fun of me because he says, my husband and I have been together 23 years since
Okay.
college sweethearts, and
Nice.
that's how long I've been doing events. And he said, I've watched you do an event for 5 people, and I've seen you do an event for 5,000 people, and not a bit of sweat, not stress, not losing your mind. He says, but the kids tend to take you off kilter. And I always say I've been a planner for 20 something years and a mom for only 11. And at this point, 11. And I say, at work, when I tell people go left, they say, how far? At home, if I say go left, everybody goes right. Like, it's just
They don't even
complete
ask.
opposite
They,
direction.
they don't even comment. They just go right.
They're like, oh. I'm like, but that's not okay. And then I've been told by people in my household that we're not your vendors and we're not your team. Put the clipboard down.
Sorry, mom.
Yes, I'm like, you're right.
Yeah. But ultimately, that's when you pipe up and you're like, no, but I am mom,
I'm the boss
and
mom around
but
here.
I'm yeah,
Exactly.
and I am, and so therefore I am de facto boss. So,
Exactly. Exactly. I have the apron, the washcloth, the laundry basket. Get to moving.
right, exactly. Just do it. Oh my goodness. But we were talking about sort of like finding space.
Hmm.
Like you were saying, sort of like you're finding your way, you're finding your space.
Hmm.
Um like, has the dynamic changed for your family? Like, since you're all now in such very close quarters, or is it just really sort of an extension of everything, of the way you've been living your life? Like, has this been a huge interruption for you?
I mean, the only change, I mean, we are a pretty close family, and the blessing of
Okay.
having my own business has always been a great thing because and it took some time because I tell anyone that I'm mentoring, when I'm coaching, some of my other girlfriends, I'm like, it does take time to find the groove because
Yeah.
if you're passionate about what you're doing, your business becomes another baby. If you have kids, or if you don't have kids, it becomes your baby, it becomes your spouse, that type of thing.
Right.
And so you kind of dive yourself into it. And then one day, because out of mouth of babes, they do speak up, you wake up and say, oh, I need to clock out. Be present and intentional. So it took some time, and they were younger. And when I first started my business 8 years ago, I had an older planner that I just kind of ran into at a site visit at a venue. We started talking, and it was Miss Miller, and we just started talking, and she had been in the industry for a long time. And like myself, she had started her business when her babies were little.
Okay.
So, at the time, my daughter was 3 and my son was just turning 5. Well, I just turned 5. And, kindergarten and, preschool and that kind of thing. And I never forget it. She looked at me and she said, work your butt off for the next few years. She says, because when that boy gets to middle school, because he was the first one, it's like, you need to be home in the evening. She goes, they are more forgiving when they're little than when they're teenagers. And so she was like, and that's a different dynamic, and you really want to be present. She's like, people think you need to back off when they're teenagers. She's like, no, that's
right. Because really, at that point, you're kind of, when they're young, you're preparing them for growth, but when they're older, you're preparing them for life.
Right. And for adulthood. Like I listened to, because my husband bought it for me, the audiobook of Michelle Obama's Becoming.
Yeah.
I got it for Christmas, and I tell everybody, even if you're a reader, listen to it. To me, it was I cried, I laughed, I was angry. It was just it was like a movie, just listening to her speak. And something that stuck in my head and I tell this to everybody, I said, her mother would say, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And so that was really profound to me when I heard that. I was like, whoa, and I paused it and I sent it to my husband in a text message, and we talked about it at dinner, and it's so true. So I've always kind of structured my business around the things they needed. But the reality is I always say that a couple times a year, there's 2 seasons a year that I'm the worst mother, wife, daughter, friend, because it's spring and fall, our busiest time here in the South and in Georgia. And so I tell people, I'll catch you in the summer, I'll catch you at the end of the year during the holidays and in the winter, like that kind of thing. And I just my husband is phenomenal. He's really hands-on. So they don't really miss a beat. I think what changed this year, though, Trish, is that my children typically go away all summer with our parents to Florida.
Oh, okay.
And this would have been the 7th year that they've gone away for the summer. So I think right now we're all like looking at each other like, they do not want to be here with us. They want to be basking in the sun and being spoiled.
Right.
So we're just kind of finding our new norm for the summer. And, it's not normal. It's not like it's a normal summer that we decided to keep them home. It's like, well, we can't go we can't go play here. We can't go swimming. Right. So we're just kind of finding that way. And as a planner that I am and creative, just finding creative ways of having fun with them and making things and playing in the yard. And I told them they were going to do Christmas in July. My husband laughed. And my son was like, no, Christmas is December 25th.
And you're like, just let me have this.
I'm like, come on, Hallmark does Christmas in July. They always do these. I used to do Christmas in July sales blitz when I worked for the hotel. And we would be silly and go visit our clients, and they would love it. We would send them Christmas, and I said, let's just pull out a couple of the small fake Christmas we have. Let's put the stockings up. And he's just like, and that's his favorite holiday. And he's just like, I don't know. I was like, you're saying no to possibly getting gifts a second time this year?
You're like, maybe you want to rethink this. Think very carefully about this, son.
My daughter's all for it because she's another child, anything to plan. She just turned 10 on June 1st, and we had a front yard social distancing TikTok party for her and like 3 of her girlfriends.
Oh, I
And
love
some of the
it.
neighbor girls. And one of the vendors one of the vendors I work with did a whole balloon installation for her. And I took the tables and I decorated them with her favorite colors and had all the girls bring chairs, and they played hide and seek. Like they just ran the yard, and of course you had to remind them to stay apart a little bit.
Right.
Other than, she had a blast. So they're adapting.
Well, I mean, the one thing that impressed me about you was your, how quickly you embraced this whole, like, changing environment that we have to work in. We talked, you mentioned that, your birthday was at the end of April. You did a Zoom call, like a Zoom party for it. My birthday was at the beginning of April. I did nothing. I didn't want, I was so sullen. I didn't just, right.
So new, Trish. You're just like, oh, this is going to pass. Because April
like,
1st, you're like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, rah. Right, but to that, you did that. Then you have the social distancing party for the girls. You've added micro weddings, to your event space. So, before we get into sort of micro weddings and what, let's talk about like what kind of led into that. Was it something that you had been thinking about? Like, because petite weddings, as you know, have been on the rise as a trend anyway in this industry. Right. It wasn't the hot ticket. But people have been talking about going petite for a long time, and trying to, I guess, sort of like push that out there for people. So was it something that you had already on your radar, or that this happened and you're like, you know what, time to do something a little bit different?
A little bit of both, because we do. Some of our clients every year do tend to have the more intimate weddings, more petite weddings, which are 50 to 75 guests, and they have all the traditional aspects of the large wedding. It's just that they're like, listen, it's not that I don't have the money. It's not, I just don't want to have to feed 150 to 200 to 300 people. I just want 50 to 75 people. And, those couples tend to be a little bit older.
Right.
They tend to be in their mid 30s to, 40s, and they're paying the wedding themselves. They already have an established career, and they've seen, or they're getting married a second time, and they just like, the first time we did a gigantic thing, or we didn't do anything the first time. So then we were already going towards that path. But then when the restrictions started happening, it was just like, okay, what are we going to do? And then, we were lucky enough that initially we only had to move 5 or 6 events. 2 of them canceled. They were corporate events because they were all travel. One was abroad. One was to New York.
Nice.
And one client, it was literally a series of trips that we were going to be taking with them, like 3 or 4 times this year for corporate. And it was just like, forget it, just go virtual and we'll revisit this next year. And then the other one was, we were going to Mexico with about 22 of us for a conference and a retreat. And it was kind of like, well, we pushed it to June, and that got canceled. Then we had a few weddings that we had to push to the fall or next year. And then some of our upcoming brides decided to, because again, they're not super young, and they decided, you know what, I'm cutting my list in half. And then one of them said, I'm fully canceling everything at this venue. They took a little bit of a loss, not much. And then we shifted to 30 to 35 people, staying within the restrictions of that part of town. And they're just doing an amazing intimate wedding, still full design, still wedding dresses, still everything else, just making it smaller, because she didn't want to keep putting money out. So we're already doing that. And so when I started doing my research to do something more intimate, more smaller for this particular client, I reached out to one of our venue partners, which is the Crown Plaza Ravinia. And I said, hey, Julie, I have a bride that's looking to do something for 30 or 40 people. You have these amazing spaces. And she's like, literally, I'm thinking about doing intimate weddings. And I'm like, well, I'm doing research on this new trend. And it's not a new trend, because I hate saying that, because when I started doing my research, it's been around for a minute. We just haven't latched onto it until we had to.
Right. Because really, when we're talking about in terms of, financial impact, a small wedding isn't necessarily going to be more profitable for a business owner. In effect, I've often said that sometimes my smaller clients are more costly because I usually end up spending a lot more time with them. Mm-hmm. They're a lot more, consultation hours than some of my larger clients. So I think that people have been just naturally shying away from them. But here we are, and and they're waiting in the wings. So
But this is what I've told a few people, because of course there's some people that are applauding the fact that we announced last month we're doing um small, micro weddings and intimate weddings, and you
right,
have to be like, well, you're not going to make the same profit. I'm like, but right now we're not making anything.
right. But you're right. Something's better than nothing. So
And
what's that?
I'm a huge believer that I was raised to do for others and not expect anything in return.
Right,
And I can't stand back, like, between my industry colleagues, whether I know them personally or not, especially the hotel industry, because that's what raised me, was corporate event planning and then hotels. And then I switched over to weddings and events and social events. So to see that and to see hotels I love, like, 200 people laid off, and these people as a planner, you
right,
work with these people, and I've trained my staff that we are kind to, I don't care if that person is mopping a floor, moving a stage, valeting the car, checking you in, or the salesperson or the GM. Everyone gets treated with love and respect and grace.
right.
So I was like, I just can't, like, at one point I stopped reading stuff on social media because I was like, I literally was in tears knowing, okay, this person has had a 25-year career in hotel industry and now they don't have a job.
Right.
But then it was like, then you have all these brides having these moments of, I've been a bride and I've been doing this for a long time. And then we had our own brides. They were like, literally one of our brides for April 4th was getting married. We literally had just had her final walkthrough, final payment, final everything. And then we woke up the next week to, you can't have your wedding.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, and my team was for it. I was like, listen, we're not going to make the same amount that we would normally make. But if we're doing multiple weddings a day, it's not that. And it's like, I feel like when you show up for people now and you care for people now, well, it's gonna reap a lot of amazing benefits later.
That's exactly it. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to decide. If you don't want to do this for your own business, okay, well that's fine.
That's
But
fine.
just understand that there'll be other people out there that will. And how you show, like you said, how you show up now for people, for your clients, for the people that you serve, is really going to impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know as business owners that the seeds we plant today, we won't be reaping the benefits of those of that crop for months, maybe years, in some respects.
Right.
So what we're doing now, what you're doing now, is very important. And so when you were forming these packages with the micro weddings,
Mm-hmm.
did you have to make a lot of accommodation? So because in my head it's just everything scaled down. But have you
Right.
found, but I have also not done any yet. We're still in my region, like phase one, so we're really not. So we're just getting there
Right.
where we can get these packages together. So are you finding in practice that that there's special accommodation or special logistics? Because logistics are your thing,
Right.
So are you making like special I guess adjustments for the
Oh,
micro weddings?
absolutely. The
Yeah,
first thing I did was you have to have a location. So whether you're having a
yeah,
micro wedding or a normal sized traditional wedding, you need a location. So
right,
I just kind of went around to, my venue partners that I've worked with before. And to anyone who's thinking about doing it, reach out to people that you have worked with, that you actually have a really good relationship with, because they are it's going to be easier, because this is not a normal
yeah,
day. It's going to be a long day. It's a marathon. At the end of the day, it's a marathon. But then as professionals that we are, creative professionals that we are, it's our job to make each of those couples in that day feel, excuse me, like that's it. Like they are the only ones. So that's the first thing I did, was I reached out to the venues. I was like, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have micro wedding days where 3 to 5 couples get married in a day. Each wedding celebration is about 90 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the venue. And most venues are like, yes. I'm like, I'm not trying to take up your ballroom. If you have an outdoor garden space, if you have a small banquet room for a backup, like, what do you have that, number one, for many of the venues, you don't want it to be where it's going to take them so out of pocket that they need a lot of staff. So
right,
most of the venues that we're working with, it's either the sales manager that's going to be there working with me, and my team and I are going to help set up chairs and like set up whatever we have to set up to help them, so the cost is not so high for them. They don't have to bring in staff. Like we have our first micro wedding on June 20th. And I was talking to our salesperson at the hotel, and she was just like, it'll be you and I pouring champagne and passing it. And I'm like, hey, it's okay.
It's all right.
Do that. I know how to slice cake. It's okay. Like, that kind of thing. And I think it's just all the couples that we've have signed up already are so grateful, because it's kind of having a mini planning session,
Right.
And many of them have plans on going to, Jamaica or the islands to get married or something else. And they're like, and again, they're not 20, they're not the ones in the really younger bracket. They're not the 23 to 27-year-olds. They're the ones who are like 29 and older. They're like, I do not want to go into 2021 married, not married.
Right.
I'm like, okay. And so, that's what we do with the venues. And then I reached down, every location that we're having will have like one design style. So that helps with the cost.
Right.
I just reached out to all my favorite people. But another thing I did was, if I was in a certain part of town, like Marietta or Ball Ground or wherever we're at, I try to find vendors in that area. So I'm putting money back into their pockets to the people in that area. And the venues are so appreciative, because they've all said to me, a couple of dollars is better than no dollars.
Yeah, right.
they literally have all said the same thing. They're like, yes, if, this is what we need, but if you need it to be a little less, let me know. And so we literally just reached out to first a venue and say, hey, do you have any preferred vendors that you want to create a package with? Because it's also a mini style shoot. And we have a few new venues that we're working with that haven't had many weddings, and they're like ecstatic, because they're like, we get to have pictures of real couples in our space. Yes. And I love connecting people. So I'm connecting new vendors with new venues, and it's kind of like, and then it's keeping everybody's creative juices going, and everyone's excited about it, even though it's lesser than what they would normally make per, but it's 5 weddings.
Yeah, but it's still, like you said, it's still something.
Mm-hmm.
It's still some sort of income, and if and even if it's sort of like your what I usually call is like a flatline income, right? Like like what you've spent is what what you've spent is your expenditures. It's it's a zero sum profit margin for you.
Right.
It's still the styled shoot. It's still your name out there. It's still you doing what you love.
Exactly. Right? And and I am one of the few vendors that are out there that don't have to physically put a product out, right? It's literally exerting brain power and and energy, like mental energy that I'm putting out. And of course, being present on the day of is physical energy, but it's literally something that I love. I mean, I've been doing it since college, so it's like I actually love what I do, and we're really good at logistics. And so to me, it's like I'm helping my fellow colleagues be able to put food on their table, because that's the thing. In the first few weeks of all of this, I was calling my people or text messaging them, just checking on them, because we do life together. Because majority of the time, because Trish, we know this, we're together with them sometimes, some seasons more than we're with our family.
Right.
My team and I, the month of January, we literally lived out of suitcases for 3 weeks, because we were that busy in January. And so I said, I spend more time with the 3 of them, with the 2 or 3 of them, than I did with my family in January. So, and I think it's, with Maya Angelou, it's like people will forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And it's like, you're talented. Come try some new skills out. Come pull out those cameras again. Come pull out your floral scissors again, and go play in dirt, go play in flowers, go play, make a wedding cake. Like, it's just all these things that they all love to do. And then the beauty of it is people constantly seeing you. You're not putting your head in the sand and not showing up on your social media anymore.
Yeah, it's one of those struggles where I think that just a lot of people. I actually just had a call this morning with someone, who's a friend in the industry, and I said, it's people are struggling 100%, and everyone has their own way of processing what's gone on, what's happening. Right, because it's all been like a series of punches. Like, first it was like the kick to the gut with COVID, then it was like a punch to the teeth with George Floyd, and then so it's all kind of like everyone's just taking these hits, these emotional hits, and people have different ways of responding to that.
Right.
And I think that I think you touch on a really good point, that there's a difference between being sort of like your own person out there with your own social media, who's not necessarily repping a particular brand, like it's your own personal brand, but maybe you work for a hotel or you work for a
Right.
venue, so you're kind of on your own social media wise. That's not who we're talking about. What we're talking about is that person like you and I. We're business owners. Our brand is us. You know,
Yeah.
you know, there is no, you know, Joanne that runs Irene, you know, Tyndale weddings and events. It's Irene, right? So,
Right. I mean, I have a great support team, but
yes,
I always tell my team, it's my name on the door. I mean, at the end of the day, I have an amazing team, but I still have to wake up and fight the fight so that we continue having the doors open.
right, right, exactly, right, exactly. So you know that if you don't show up for your business, you know, nobody else is showing up for your business. You know,
I tell people, you're allowed to have bad moments,
sure,
and
yes,
I've allowed
of
that.
course.
I've allowed that, and so bad to say I allowed it, but I allowed it to my team. I allowed it to some of my vendor friends that I'm really close to, but I'm very much like the coach in the corner of Rocky. Like, maybe, like,
Right.
what are we doing? Get
Right,
up.
right,
I had a conversation with one of my great friends yesterday via text. I was like, okay, so let me know when you need an accountability call ASAP, because I don't see you posting. I don't, like, to me, it's like, don't tell me you need something or that you have a goal, and then don't let me see you taking any action, because I'm coming for you. And I expect people to do the same thing to me. And
yeah,
the other thing, Trish, is that what I realized was we had all these to-dos and then to-dos and to-do things on our task list in Asana. And it was like, oh, these projects and these ideas, oh, we'll do it later, oh, we'll do it later. And, you know, I teach people to work on their business as much as they work in their business. Like, you can't, you know, you
right,
have to work on your business as much as you service your clients. But I am a servant at heart. I love, like, if I could have somebody completely run the business out of everything, and I just happily logistically design and make diagrams and plan all day long with my brides, I would be like a happy clam.
right,
I'm a CEO, I'm a business owner, so I have to
right,
do the other side of it too. But it was all these things that we were gonna release later. You know, we rebranded. We started working on our rebrand in September, and then fall hit, and so you know how that is. We were
right,
slammed then, and it was like all these things are like, you know what? No, that page will get done. You know what? That will get done. You know what? We're gonna blog. We're gonna be on IG Live. And it's nice because it's like I didn't have the time before, whereas I have the time now. And I said, we have to show up. We have to show up. And I said, we have to show up and teach and educate our, brides and fellow colleagues. And I was watching a few months ago, might have been in April, I was watching Good Morning America, and I was watching, they had two sharks from the Shark Tank on giving advice to small business owners. And one of them was a woman who called in, and she owned a bridal shop. And she was like, this two shall pass. What do I need to do for when the floodgates open? Because it's true, people still get married. So when the floodgates
right,
open. And Barbara said to her, well, the first thing I want you to remember is weddings are not going anywhere.
right.
I mean, the
It's
first
still going to
wedding,
happen. It's
right?
still
The
happening.
first wedding on record that they know of evidence of was like 2350 BC. So before Christ, people were getting married. So if you think how many years, and that's through floods, pandemics,
Right,
earthquakes, famines, financial ruins, rebuilding of things, wars, weddings continuing to happen. She said weddings will look different, but they were going to be happening. She
right,
goes, second, she was like, get your team ready for when the gates open. Like, prepare yourselves. And then she said, she goes, the third and most important thing is keep them dreaming.
right.
And so that literally resonated with me. And I was like, okay, guys,
Nice.
we're going to do whatever we have to do to keep them dreaming. We're going to give them information. We're going to do whatever we need to do to be present so they could feel hopeful, because and this is before, like you said, George Floyd, we are keeping them hopeful because there's so much hopelessness out there. And here we are. I mean, that's what it do. Like, that's what, believe me, I have my bad days, but I can't sit in it. I can't sit in it.
Yeah,
Long.
yeah, and I think that if you're anything like me, you compartmentalize those bad days.
Mm-hmm.
You understand, that there is this sort of overlying sense of professionalism, where, like, okay, you know what, I have time. You know what, I have time between 5 p.m. and 7:45 to wallow in my own self misery, and that's the time.
Snap
That's
out of it, girl.
exactly when that's going to happen. And then 8 p.m. dinner's on the table.
Exactly.
B-
Exactly. You have your moments. I mean, I told my daughter the other day, she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, I'm kind of mourning my summer,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
mourning, and she said, "You, so am I." I said, and it's just that was just so, I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Yes, everybody has their moments, and I can't tell somebody how to, their
No.
stages of grief or their stages of dealing with things, but we need to be positive as much as possible. That's what they pay us for. If we look doom and gloom, and we're very careful about what we post on our social media, even our personal social media pages, because our clients are watching. And so we're just like,
Yeah.
not that we're living in a fairy tale by any means, because in conversations with our couples, like after they've had their meltdowns, they've cursed, they yelled, they screamed, I'm like, okay, do you feel better? Now let's look at this logically. That is what you hired me for. I tell people I am their Dr. Phil, Ayana Van Zandt. I will counsel you, listen to you whine and gripe. But at the end of that, I am about solutions.
Right.
Let's figure it out. So, and it might not look, and I'm straight up. So is the idea to have a marriage, or is the idea to have a huge production that yours is better than hers? Like what's the goal?
Right, and I think that's what we're really talking about today in terms of micro weddings is that, like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the goal? If the goal is to get across that finish line and to
Yes.
be married, then you understand that the big wedding, it would be lovely,
Right.
sure, but it's not the priority in terms of what's happening. But if the goal is to have the fairy tale, to have 200 of your family and friends and all your college friends and everyone, and you all get drunk and you have this big blowout, and it's
Right.
you've got the chickens running around with the wildflowers, with
Mm-hmm.
the mason jars, like if that's your dream, then you have to understand that that's going to happen next year or maybe the year after, because event dates are booking.
Right.
Well, and then that's the really other beautiful thing about micro weddings is that this is helping sort of fill dates for venues and for
Yes.
vendors.
Because some venues are doing, and
Like
when
Wednesday,
I
Thursday, yeah.
call, right, when I call, I like leave it up to the venue. Like I'm like,
Right.
you tell me, do you want to have it on a Friday? Do you want to have it on a Sunday? Are you okay with Saturdays? Are
Right.
you Do you want to have it on a Thursday? You tell us what's available, and we're not trying to say pick stuff up, 8 months from now or 6 months from now. It's kind of like, we have these summer brides and these early fall brides that might, they might need something to do now. And I'm telling brides too, it's kind of like a two-parter. Like you're having a two-part celebration. So if you want to say I do now because you want that 2020 date, you're planning on buying a home, or you just don't want to go into 2021 not married, you want to have a celebration with 10 to 30 of your family and friends. And most of our micro brides are literally keeping it at 10 to 12 people. And
Yep.
the 12 people is 10 of the family members and the two of them. We've had a few that said, okay, maybe 20 people. For the most part, is anywhere between 10 and 15 people. And they're saying I do. It's a beautiful altar that's set up. And, ceremony, you get a bouquet, boutonniere, a beautiful 2-tier baby cake, some toasting. You get photos, and then you get, some music and sound. And then it's 90 minutes. And what I'm encouraging everyone to do is either, depending on the venue, if there's a hotel, they have a restaurant, have it there, or find somewhere locally. And some of my couples are just going back home and having something intimate at home with their family because
Right.
it's a family affair.
Right.
And then the other plus side of it is that we have some amazing venues in Atlanta. We have some amazing photographers, and we're working with some great top-notch photographers that sometimes it's not in a bride's budget to get married at the Four Seasons, or have Andre Brown be their photographer, or have a full-on, $2,200-$2,500 installation for their ceremony altar. They get that experience. And then if they want to, for a reasonable price, and if they want to, they'll have their big celebration next year. And so you have a part
Exactly.
two. And then that one, and to me, I feel like that's a little less stressful because it's really, if you want to renew your vows, you do. Most couples are like, I'm just going to have a big party and just say a quick word to everybody and have a big party. And then I have some couples that are keeping their micro weddings super private. No one's posting about it. No one's talking it. Like it's just because they're having a big celebration and they're going to renew their vows next year.
Exactly.
So it's kind of what you do it. And then some couples are like, listen, I'm foregoing that big thing next year. I'm going to have this 30-person intimate wedding and take the rest of that money and buy my house. And that's the thing. We're being hired to do intimate weddings, which is between 50 and 75 people, or even 30 to 50 people, for planning services, planning and design. So yeah, it's a little bit less, and those weddings are happening quicker. So it's not like we're going to be working with that bride or groom for a year, 6 months to a year. It's literally 3-4 months from now, Irene, you want to say I do with 30 people. Go.
Yep. And that's it.
Go.
Just do it. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is that like this might actually spark people to think about weddings differently because because it's really it's not in a whole lot not in many parts of the world that we follow the traditional sort of like ceremony, photos, reception format in terms of marriage and marriage ceremonies, and larger gatherings like really huge blowouts. Like there are certain parts of the world like in France where because they're a non-secular society, you go to the courthouse with your family and friends. And you go to the courthouse, and that's where you conduct the marriage ceremony. So that's called that's a different day, and so that is the ceremony. That is and then you do like a nice brunch or you do a nice meal and everyone gets dressed up. And then on a different day, that's when you do the great big party. So we might just be moving towards that. People might just decide that this is the way to go. Right?
I mean, think about it. Meghan Markle did it. That's how Meghan and Harry did it. They had the huge wedding ceremony in the church. Gorgeous. We love her. We're huge fans of hers around here.
Yep.
And then
fabulous.
She's fabulous in all kinds of ways. My daughter loves it because she's like, she looks like me. Like it's just kind of like nice. It's just really cute.
That's cute.
But then
That's
she
cute,
had this amazing, gorgeous ceremony, and it was because it's all about the ceremony. I feel like sometimes I'm like, it's gorgeous. And then they had a luncheon, like they call it.
Right.
And they had their luncheon, and then was it the next day or that same night? I don't even know because there was so many things. They had the huge party, and it was just amazing. It's like to me, it's like do what you want to do. But my husband was, we were talking, and I always said that he is like a planner by default for being with me for so long. But he was like, this is actually giving couples permission to actually have the size wedding that they really wanted to.
Yes.
I have so many couples, they're like, I want to get married, but I don't need 150, 200 people. And I've had brides come and say, out of these 250 people, I know 30. And he may know 10. So we may know, between the two of them, they may know 30 to 50 people, and everybody else is longtime family friends or distant family members, that kind of thing. And I have had a few conversations with my couples. I'm like, are you actually happy that we had to cut the list down? And they're like, it was a battle before, and now it's like, well, the governor said.
Now there's someone else to blame. Yeah. I actually had one of my clients who was going to, it was going to be at the end of June, the wedding, and it was a struggle because they were older, they had the budget they were going to have. They weren't like some of these other younger couples that was going to suddenly magically appear with another $20,000-$30,000.
Right. I love that.
Because you know that when they do that, those couples have like mortgaged themselves to the teeth. Like they have sold they've defunded their IRA accounts. They've mortgaged their future to get that extra money. Whereas an older couple will be like, nope, this is what I have to spend, and this is what I'm spending. Which is great to have couples who understand the value of the budget.
Like here it is.
Here it is. Yeah. And but that was the thing, is that their guest list was growing to a point where they couldn't, she couldn't really, she couldn't really get the design that she wanted. And now with everything that's happening, I think she's just happier about it. She's now going to get the wedding that she wanted.
Exactly. Because you're like, well, sorry, I can't have these people here. And
so sorry.
That's the thing is overall for a budget, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You have to determine your budget first. Right. And then have a guest list based on that. But also think about, what are you envisioning for your day? If you're envisioning walking into a room and it's like the botanical gardens, that costs money.
Right.
And it's like, and I'm glad some of these social media platforms are actually starting to put a price tag on some of this stuff. But when brides send me their Pinterest board, I'm like, honey, that was a style shoot. And that floral designer put out her best work, her best blooms. But if she had to reproduce that, it's still going to cost a lot of money. Like you have to understand the cost of flowers. And then my favorite, which I'm pretty sure you can hear this, well, can we just get silk flowers? And I was like, well, quality silk flowers cost just as much as a real flower does.
Right. Exactly.
You can't go to the Dollar Tree and Hobby Lobby. That's just not on my watch.
Right.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's like fakery only lasts, but like sure we could do silk flowers as long as it's 12 feet away and no one ever gets near them
and no one touches it. Right.
Right.
You'll be surprised how many
Right.
of the higher end designers do it as fillers, because
Right.
if not, that would be $1,000 centerpiece.
Right.
But as long as you can't touch it,
Right.
if it's submerged in water, like there's these orchids and calla lilies that they're foamy. If you put them, you can't tell if they're real or not. So that's okay. If it's high up, hanging, dangling, that's different.
But those are still expensive.
They are.
It's still expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna save you that much money, to do it. Well, and then then that leads down this whole other rabbit hole where you're caught to that look, because
Right.
silk flower, quality silk flowers, they really only come in certain varieties. So you're not, if you're someone who's looking for a particular, look or, flower type or this or that, you may not necessarily get it. You'll get lush. You just may not get like that super like blush peachy.
Right. You can't get
white.
Picky.
Yeah. You can't get picky. You can't be picky.
No, but even on the other side with natural flowers, at the end of the day, and I would say most of my floral designers I work with have a clause. Like, we can't guarantee that yellow is going to be the exact same yellow when those flowers come in.
Right.
Because the florist is not the Lord or Mother Nature and makes the flowers. It's just yellow. It's how much rain came that year, it's just how they bloom. So it's kind of like you have to be flexible. Like flowers don't come in blue. Okay, very few do, and the ones that do are not really great in bouquets. Those are painted, and I have florists that's like, I am not spray painting flowers. It's just like, no. And so for our micro weddings, we're gonna have one look. Each venue is gonna have a different style. So bride gets, right now we have 6 on the books, which we're really excited about.
Fabulous.
6 different venues and all throughout town, and we're waiting. The later part of the year, we'll have one in the city and in Midtown, which will be at the Four Seasons Atlanta. And that one, we're doing that on purpose because our mayor is just, the restrictions are stronger in the city than they are in the suburbs. So we're just, kind of spreading the love and going to the outside part of Atlanta, the different suburbs of Atlanta. They have these beautiful venues. And we're just having fun with that. And it's just like the floors are all the floral designers are so excited. They're like, you need to tell me I get to play with flowers? Like, because they're all itching. Most of my floral friends here in Atlanta are making like centerpieces for their table, or or actually delivering flowers to other vendor friends to cheer them up, because they're just like, I've just bought flowers from, either they had some stuff ordered, now they can order things. But initially it was like, I just went to Kroger or I went to Publix or I went to Whole Foods and picked up flowers to play with flowers.
To just kind of keep the skill going, because that's the thing, it's like it's like with anything really. It's kind of like, if I didn't have this show where I had to get up and like, blow dry my hair and put on makeup, I would wake up in 3 months and be like, lipstick, what is that, like, what do I do with that again? Or it just like, these are all skills, and you have to keep your skills going.
Yeah. And I'm still getting up every day, and some days I get dressed up because I have to be, on camera or something. Some days I put on a sundress and put on some powder, and I'm not doing it, videos. And my daughter's like, where are you going? I'm like, to my desk.
Right. Just hanging out. I'm going to the market.
Or I'm going to the supermarket, or there's days I'm living in my workout gear. That's just what it is. But yeah, I saw an influencer the other day say something about, I haven't worn heels. It was like a fashion influencer. She was like, I haven't worn heels in a month and a half. And then she had a video of her like walking around the house with them. She's like, I need to practice again because I have a closet full of heels and I'm going to forget how to walk in these.
Yeah, exactly. Or your feet are going to hurt. I'm not looking forward to that. I know that the minute I get back into like real shoes, that my feet are just gonna start like
Or
howling.
even being on your feet.
Okay.
I mean, as a planner,
Yeah.
even being on your feet all day.
Well,
So I've been running. I took up running last year because my daughter. I ran a marathon. Oh, not a marathon. Not a 5K. Let me put
yeah.
that back.
Congratulations. Good. That's
Thank
still,
you.
it's good. It's
I
progress is good.
know. And so now, I did the 5K training, and now I'm doing the 10K training. And she's like, "Here,
Nice.
I'm running," because I'm like, you have to keep it going. You have to keep it moving. Because I mean, we have 2 weddings this month, and there'll be a full day for both of them. And small ones, they're micro weddings and intimate wedding. But I'm like, we pack on our feet for
But it's
10, 12
still,
hours.
right.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm
It's
so
like, it's a
excited.
3 hour event, but you're going to be there for six or seven at least.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
you're going to feel it.
I'm gonna feel it, but I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna be like, I mean, we had a site visit a couple weeks ago, and it was the first time that I physically have seen my team or any
Aw.
vendors, and I literally was like, we were all masked and being protected, and I was just like, I told them, I'm like, everybody left, and we were getting ready to leave. I was like, y'all have just given me life for the rest
Nice.
of the day. Like
I love it.
my heart was full to be walking the property and talking to the chef, and it was just nice to be out. It was hot, but it was just like, oh, we're out, you know?
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean that's what it is. It's we were talking locally with the DC and ACE chapter. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who might be watching, but we were talking about when the next in-person meeting was going to be.
Right.
When I was discussing it with someone on the board, they're like, well, someone's got to break the ice. Someone's got to do it.
Yes. Everyone's afraid. Everyone's like,
yeah.
we don't want to be the first. Who's going to be the first?
Well, then, you're right. Then who's going to do it? Time to.
And then they want, because most people who are probably watching you are colleagues of ours. And it's like, we're a social industry. It's like, my husband was like, you guys are all like up the creek. Because I'm like, how are we distancing? How are we physically going to distance? Like, you can't hug your friends that you work with. You can't, like, you have to tell them orders or like tell them what to do 6 feet apart. It's like all these weird things. But one of the things that we're going to do for micro weddings, and we're giving in between each wedding will be either 30 minutes to an hour to refresh, disinfect, do whatever we have to do. Right. We're making sure the spaces are bigger, not very small spaces, or they're outdoors. So just to kind of think of all those things. And I've had multiple conversations with other colleague planners of mine, friends of mine that are like, in Miami or in California, in different places about, okay, I see that you're doing this. How are you doing it? Let's talk. And we've had a couple of Zoom calls, and we're kind of like in a little tag in a DM group together, like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about? And I said, the number one thing is to, of course, check your CDC, all your CDC logistics. But we all know that that's like 50 pages of doctor talk.
Well, and we all know, right? And we know our business. We know our industry. We know that people's behavior is not going to necessarily match what the CDC
and it's not.
Recommendations are going to be. But at the end of the day, we also know that there's I had that discussion with someone a while ago where we were talking about liability. There's always an assumption of risk on the part of an event attendee. So when people are out there and they're talking about, like you as the organizer, you're going to put out your statement. You're going to be like, you're going to say, everything's been disinfected. We have set up the mechanism by which social distancing standards can be observed. You have to observe them.
Simple.
So if you decide to get handsy and start hugging people, that's on you.
And we're not policing. So that, we're
right.
going to do that. We're spreading them out. That's part of the logistics of the micro weddings. But we also know it's per town. Yes, we have a state mandate, but then the governor says the counties, the towns, the mayors all have their restrictions. Yeah. So just pay attention to that. Talk to the venues. As a planner, I was like, okay, what have you all done? Some of them have been closed. Like, what have you all done to, keep it clean, to disinfect? And, most venues, especially like the larger venues, they have like that industrial cleaning stuff. So that's really good to know that they're cleaning. But then some of these older venues, I'm like, okay, are you cleaning the air ducts? And I know this is money to being put out there, but those are the logistics. And then explain to the couples that, if you're not requiring your guests to wear masks, that's okay. But I will tell you that all your vendors will have a mask on.
Right.
Just to be safe, because again, we're going to be going through quicker weddings than normal. So the logistics for that's been a lot of conversations about that too, just how exactly how we do that. And every venue is in on it. They have their list of things that they've done, and so if a couple is really concerned, we share those things with them, or I have a conversation with them about what we're doing with that. So just be
so you are fully communicating. Well, are you also communicating with the guests, or are you leaving it for the couples to communicate?
I'm leaving that for the couples, because these are micro weddings. So now my clients are having larger intimate weddings, or our full planning clients. Oh yeah, we're actually having those conversations. I've had a couple actually do a little video and send it out to everybody, text message to everybody, like, this is how we're doing things.
Yep.
We have a wedding at the end of August, and the venue is actually doing the temperature checks for everyone and getting the venue is actually doing it. So towards, once the invites go out, we'll put it on the wedding website. Like, this is your experience, to expect this. This is how it's going to be.
Right. So they'll do like a little primer before.
A little primer, right. And then for the micro weddings, when they first arrive, like the families first arrive, we'll have the lead planner kind of greet them, tell them, hey, this is how it's going to go, give everybody a little heads up, that kind of thing.
Perfect.
But from my understanding, the people, my colleagues who have had weddings, whether they're micro weddings, intimate or regular weddings, some people are being really mindful at weddings as far as guests, and some guests don't care.
Right. Some guests are like, they're the conspiracy theorists. They're the ones.
I mean, each his own, and that's why we're not judging them.
Right.
I know one of the biggest questions I've had that people say, like, well, we kind of touched upon it a little bit, like, how did you figure out your pricing, or how are you getting paid? And I said, again, I left that up to every vendor. I did not call the vendor and be like, what's the cheapest price you could give me?
Right.
It was like, this is what I'm doing. I would love you to be a part of it. What's what is going to make you come out the house?
Right. Like, what's going to make sense for you?
What's going to make sense for you? And for us, what we did was we took our highest wedding management package, and we divided it by number of weddings that we're going to have that day.
Perfect.
Because typically we're on site anywhere from 10 to 12 hours. So each of our micro wedding days has a lead and an assistant, and that's in there. And we would make the same amount if it was one wedding, or we're just doing, and it's, we're taking these couples and we're figuring everything out, and it's working with the officiant, working with the cake person, but it's 5 weddings that we're doing in a day. And so, and again, just like anything else, when you learn something new, when you hear about new service that somebody's out there doing, just do your research, reach out to them, ask them questions. And if they're open to answering questions, great. If they're not, find the next person who's doing it. But everything is like, this is not a new service. I didn't invent it. There's the small wedding societies out there right now. They have that, and they're coaching people through it. So, you just have to find what works best for you. And, and if you decide not to do this service, please don't turn your nose at somebody who's doing it. Because that's the biggest thing I've been hearing from some of my colleagues that are doing this. There's some people like turning their nose at them. I'm like, so, and I look at it like, so what? It's like, so what? So what? I mean,
look, at the end of the day, it's, it services a particular client. And so if you are not willing to serve that particular client, that does not negate that person's need to be served. And so if there's someone out there who's willing to sell them what they're asking for, then, just if you're the person who says, like, no, that's not for me, then just say that and keep it pushing.
Exactly. And the great thing about it is that there's some venues and some vendors that started offering micro weddings, and it didn't pick up for them, or they had something happen, and they're referring them to me, or they call the venue, can I do a micro wedding? Like, yes. And you need to call Small Weddings Atlanta, because they can help you put it all together. So some of them, we actually have ones that we're customizing for that person, like customizing for that couple, which of course costs a little bit more money. And then we have the micro wedding days. And so it's kind of a win-win. We love it. To me, it's like any day, we're still going to have a timeline. Like, each bride would have a timeline. We'll have a full production schedule, but you're working with the same group of vendors for the entire day, like you would at a wedding. A normal day, you're just seeing 3 to 5 couples coming through their doors.
Right, exactly. It's just, in effect, it's kind of like working, back at a hotel again, right? It's like where,
Yes.
you're going to have, you're going to have IBM in conference room 4, you're going to
Hmm.
have, Accenture in ballroom A,
Hmm.
and then you're going to have the pharmaceutical, and then you're going to have concurrent pharmaceutical meeting plus a wedding that night,
Right. All in one weekend.
all in one weekend,
Yeah, and and that's happened before. I mean, that's how we did it before because we have multiple rooms. And I mean, one of the venues that we're working for in the fall, they you could pick from like 2 or 3 locations, and I'm like, we're gonna have your choice of very traditional or very modern. And it's like
Right.
we possibly may have 2 couples getting married in the. I mean, the spaces are far apart enough apart that it's possible. We have 2 weddings going on at the same time if you want to, and then you can claim that you got married at this venue.
Exactly.
You know.
And like you said, it enables it enables couples to maybe just have that experience that maybe, before this they just felt that they couldn't, they either financially couldn't,
Right.
or they just really couldn't
Right. Right.
have before. So, it's not all a bad thing.
No, and you keep, like you said, you're still sharpening your skills.
Yep.
Um, the most exciting thing about it is, talking to the designers, and I'm like, okay, it's kind of like when you're at a hotel or a banquet hall or something like that, and it's like, and the menu says chef's choice, and chef, there's a special smaller, special pricing for chef's choice. I'm like, this is designer choice. Like, what
Yeah.
have you been wanting to create in this particular venue for eons? Is there a new design that you've been wanting to do? Is there a new trend that you may want to be dipping your hand into that's going to be popular next year? Let's have at it. Like the
Right.
one we have in July, it's a French inspired garden, and it's like a garden in the middle of the city, and you don't even realize that you're in the garden.
Beautiful.
You don't realize that you're in the city. It's amazing. And so it's like that, and we're doing like an industrial elegance one, and woodsy out. I mean, so I'm like, get creative, have fun, put those mood board skills to use, and let's make it happen.
Right. Exactly. The playground is now open.
Exactly. Have fun. Go play in the sandbox.
Well, I mean, and do you find that, and we can, and I want to be respectful because we're right at the 57 mark, but, and I definitely not only want to be respectful of your time, but also the fact that you are an educator and that you do, have mentorship packages available. You do offer that as a service. So are you finding that that's now something that's like a hot topic in what you're offering? Like, are people coming to you specifically looking to be mentored, to be educated on how to do these things, or
Yeah,
is
I
it
mean,
still or is it still a little fresh?
well, I've had a few, like I've had like 2 or 3 reach out to me specifically for that, and we've had calls and chats about that just in general, and it's really just honest, like how I've done it, what I'm doing for it. It's been a couple people in my own market, and then it's been people in
Perfect.
other markets, which is great because you get to learn from another market. You're like, oh, that's how
Yeah.
that happens in California. Oh, that's how it happens, and like you look at states like California, it's a huge state, and so certain areas you're like, wow, that's a ritzy area, and there's certain areas that their weddings minimum are 200 people.
Right.
That's what it is. So just having those conversations, but I'm still coaching. The coaching has picked up a lot more because guess what? We have time. So in
Right.
general, like I've had people where we have coaching calls about their business, and then we start talking about new services. That's like, okay, so what do you think of this? And we have those conversations. And I don't see, because I've seen different comments online. It's like, well, don't do it just because. Well, it's the same. Do it, to me, do what you need to do because everybody doesn't know everyone's bank account. That's how I always
Right. It's
function.
like,
Like I
kindly
don't.
get your hands out of my wallet
Right. So to me, it's
first.
like, and if you a person, like to me, one of the things was more than, putting money back into the account. I was like, I want to help. I felt helpless. Like you just
Yeah.
feel helpless. I'm not a frontline worker.
Right.
I had weddings coming up. We have family that's, a certain age bracket, so I can't go out there and deliver things. We're not, we're caring as a family about what's going on with the injustices in the world, but we're not protesting. So I'm finding ways, you know, socially as far as the industry, and then politically as far as whatever I can do there as a family, so that we could still give back without putting ourselves in harm's way. Because I have
Right.
a family to stay healthy for, and then I have clients to stay healthy for, right?
Right. Right.
And so I was like, what can I do? Because I'm the bull in the china shop, so I can't stay still. Like being home this much, I'm an extrovert. married to an introvert. And him and my son are two happy little clams, and my daughter and I are like losing our mind. We're like the dolphins in the sea, like, where are we going next? Like, you know. And so I was like, what can I do? Like, you felt helpless, especially when your clients call you and you literally have to take a pause and be like,
right.
in my 23 years, this is new. Like,
right.
I don't have a story for this. I don't have, we've been through this before. Like, you know, couples are always kind of embarrassed to tell you about their family secrets or their family problems. I'm like, honey, I've heard it all in 20 years.
Right.
This is kind of like, I took to my knees and said prayers because I was like, I just don't. Give me the strength. I don't know what to say. I cried a few times for my clients and for my vendors. And then I was like, okay, done.
You're like, right.
Like you said, you have your moments from this time to this time. It's over. Let's go. What are we going to do? And I when I tell a lot of my people that I'm mentoring or coaching is, what do you want? What do you want at the end of all this? Do you still want to have a business, or do you want to go back? Do you want to continue working 9 to 5? Like, if you had a goal to leave your 9 to 5 and do this full time, continue on that path. It's just different. Your goals have to shift. That's it. So whatever goals you have for 2020, shift them. And my mentor, back in like October, November, we had a conversation about shifting and pivoting then. And then at her conference, and it's Janelle Boy with the Planet Suite conference.
Oh, yeah. Janelle, yes. Everybody in DC knows Janelle.
And, you know, we had this conversation like in October, November about shifting and pivoting. She taught about it in January at her conference. And then here's March. And then her and I had a conversation because I took one of her latest courses, Event Inc., to do more corporate stuff again. Okay. And we had a conversation about you have to prepare and position yourself for when all this is over. You just do.
Yeah.
So whatever you have to do to keep your hands in the pot, to keep your face shown, you know, everyone talks about multiple streams of income. Well, guess what? This is another stream of income for now. But I will tell you that we're still booking brides for 2021 and 2022. We're booking clients for wedding management, full planning, and design. Booking. I mean, I think we've booked 4 or 5 since this whole thing started for next year.
That's fantastic.
Do the Mirco Weddings, but that's because you're still present. And even the venues out there, have somebody in the venue or have somebody picking up the phone and being present because the girls are calling.
They are. I've gotten that from several venues. Locally, where, you know, they like a lot of it's kicking tires. Like a lot of people I think are waiting, but they are calling, so they're making that initial contact. Right. So it is important, and I've certainly had a bunch of leads, you know, come in, and I'm finding the same where people are still sort of, you know, managing expectations, and you know, they're still sort of like waiting. They're playing a little bit of the waiting game, but I know that the initial the initial contact has happened. So I know, you know, there will be future contact, and I know some of these will book.
And they're wanting to see, this is what I've seen. I mean, and they are being referred by past brides, or they're being referred by other vendors or the venues. And then, you know, your social media, my friends, is your Google.
Right.
They go to social. I mean, I've had it in meetings, and I tell them about our design partner, Tinted, and they're, oh, what's her Instagram? I mean, this is photographer. As we're sitting having a consultation, they're looking it up. And so if they looked on there and you haven't posted since February, they're when I'm starting to refer our clients, I'm referring certain vendors and our vendor partners. They go, will they be in business next year?
That's a huge concern. There are several of my clients who have been concerned about that. And you know, and I tell them, well, that's what you hire me for, right? Like I keep on top of that. I'm not going to let you sink.
No,
I'm not going to let this event sink. So, you know, people will surprise you all the time. You know, because again, it's like no one knows the other person's finances. But that's the importance of a planner, is because if your photographer goes out of business, if your caterer goes out of business, then I'm the one with the relationships where I can pick up another photographer for you in short
Right.
order,
Right.
or I can pick up, and I can walk you through with how to recover any sort of loss that might happen,
Right.
as opposed to leaving you out there and sort of just swimming in the ocean alone.
Yeah.
Because who wants to do that, especially this time.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's what we're there for. I mean, we've had brides that are like, what? How am I going to do this? I'm like, you're not. You
Right,
paid us. They're like, oh, like if they forgot. Oh yes, and even our micro brides, part of the logistics, like we're working all the logistics out for them.
right.
They're literally just showing up with their marriage license in hand,
Yep,
their family,
yep.
and the person that they're marrying, and that's it. Like they're like, oh, that's it. We're answering questions. We're helping them find reservations at hotels. We're helping them check to see what restaurants in the area near the venue are open and making that connection. We're doing all that, and it's all from the comfort of my home, in my home office, and their
Right,
home.
right.
Phone calls, Zoom, emails, and it's getting done. And I mean, it's just, to me, it's the same logistics you would do for any wedding, just on a smaller scale, smaller budget, that kind of thing. And you're only taking up per wedding 90 minutes to maybe 2 hours of that photographer's time. And that bride might get anywhere from 75 to 150 photos, depending on how long the
Right.
wedding is. And it's great. They're getting a great cake, great location, champagne. They're happy with that.
It's going to all be lovely. It's still going to all be very
I'm
lovely.
excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Like
It's
I
good.
want to be in the corner, teary-eyed again.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
watching Hallmark all day on a Saturday. So that's what I do. It's on as I'm doing chores. My
Right.
Hallmark channel.
Right. And you're like, they're like, oh, Saturdays again. I have
Right.
Saturdays. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what to do. And that's a big thing. I'm like, man, what are we going to do when I go back to majority of my Saturdays taken up?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
but I'm excited for it.
Adjustment again.
Exactly.
But it's all fantastic. It's all fantastic. And certainly, if you're out there and you've been watching, make sure to reach out to Irene. Because again, she offers this as as a coaching package. She offers these mentorship opportunities. So if you're looking to also get into micro weddings, definitely, you should be reaching out to her. And now, Irene, I wanted to be respectful, of everyone's time. So I wanted to wrap today's interview with my one final question. So it's my final signature question.
Ooh.
And it's, here it is. So when everything opens up and you can go wherever you want to go and eat whatever you want to eat, where are you going? What are you doing? What are you eating?
Oh my gosh. I've been thinking about that and thinking about that. Because Atlanta is so good.
Yeah, so good.
It's
So
like-
good.
it's
No
like
shortage.
No shortage of great food. But something Mexican or Asian, because I love
Me
Chinese
too.
food. I love Chinese food. Like I told my husband I was going to be back really quick from the store yesterday. He's like, 10 minutes. Because, when you order Chinese takeout, they always say 10 minutes. It's hilarious.
Right.
And I'm like, don't say that. My heart is sinking. But there's a place not too far from me. I live in the Marietta area. And so we have like a really cute downtown square. It's called the Marietta Square.
Yep.
And there's a place called Taqueria Tsunami. And they do like these mini street tacos.
Nice.
It's like Asian and a little Spanish infused. And they have this dragon berry mojito that is amazing.
All
and
right.
you have it's like Korean meets Spanish meet Asian Mexican tacos. They're just amazing. They have like
Love
pizza fries and black beans and rice, and it's just a fusion. And I just love it because it's outside. We can eat outside and watch the kids play. If they want to get ice cream locally or get cupcakes from Miss Mammy's, which is like a normal thing. And that's what I just can't wait to do then.
Just like be out.
Be out. And really, my team and I eat all summer. So we
Nice.
do all kinds of outdoor things as team members and just being out and about. But yeah, anything Asian or Mexican, I would be really excited for. I mean, I'm doing it at home, but Chinese food at
It's not
home
the
is not the
same.
same.
It's not
Mexican
the same.
food at home is not the same.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's for me. It's gonna have to be sushi, because it's the one. It's the
makes
one
that at
thing.
home?
Like I'm not making that at home. I'm not buying 3 pounds of tuna.
No, but
It's
Atlanta, though, I've seen people make it at home and it always looks like they're bombing. Like that's an art. Like that is an
It is an
art.
art.
These
It is an art.
people have mastered.
Yes.
And I'm not a huge sushi eater, but I'm like, it's just the way they make it, the way they present it. It's gorgeous. And it's just like, I'm not trying that at home.
Yeah.
I'm not trying that at home. And
Well, I
Chinese
mean, it's
food,
like with Mexican food as well. There's an art to the sauces, to the cooking.
right.
So unless you're doing that at home all the time, which I'm not, then right, I'd rather go and experience someone else's art.
Right. And I see my heritage, like I'm Puerto Rican, and so I can cook a lot of the traditional dishes. And my husband is Jamaican. And there's some things
Nice.
I can cook, but like
Right.
my mother-in-law makes an amazing brown stew chicken with
Mm.
rice and peas. And my daughter said, we need to do a Zoom call, a FaceTime call with Mimi while we need to cook it while she's cooking it, like a cooking show. And that's like I've
That'd
semi
be fun.
done good at making her mac and cheese, where my daughter and my husband have approved because they love it.
Okay,
But
good.
I'm like the brown stew chicken is the next thing, and then my mom makes this really good. It's so funny because Rachel Ray calls it a stoop, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Which
It's like
is
a
a soup,
chunky stew. Yeah.
we just call it soup. And so when Rachel Ray started calling it soup, I said, Mom, you had soups before it was like a cool thing to do. Like
Right.
it's like rice and noodles and chicken and ham and potatoes. It's just an amazing, like it brings you back from, the brink of if you're not feeling well.
Right.
And so my daughter loves it. And I'm like, I have not mastered how to make my mother's soup. So she's going to do a FaceTime with them. And so I'm just like,
It's all right.
yeah, I mean, and I tell people we've decided to not eat out as much until things get
Okay.
better.
Yeah.
And, we'll get fried chicken or something from the
Sure.
local supermarket, but, I'm cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which the women in my family who are older are all smiling. They're like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Exactly. It's like, thanks.
Thanks. I'm like, no one's on my side. And my
Right.
husband's like, we're saving. Do you know how much money we're saving? We're not eating out. I'm like,
Thanks.
nobody wants to hear that.
Right. Nobody asked for that opinion.
Yes, it's like I'm not taking anybody to lunch because we were doing
Yeah.
taxes and all that stuff, and we're looking at my numbers, my work, my business numbers, and he said, "Look how much money? No cocktail hours, no coffee lunch, coffee meetings, no lunch meetings."
You're like, you know what? You know what, dear? I don't need that kind of negativity in my life right now.
I'm like, but I miss those moments. I'm an
Yeah, of
extrovert. I want
course.
to go have coffee with my girlfriends, not over Zoom.
Look, at the end of the day, I've often said that about Starbucks. Do I particularly enjoy their product? Nah, not really.
Not a
What
big
I like
fan.
is going to the shop, and I like the process of you go in and you meet someone there and you enjoy like a nice right. It's
Right.
you pay for the atmosphere.
Exactly. And even our office, like we have a great coffee machine. We're part of Studio Wed, and we
Nice.
have like a really nice, we have wine, we have beer, we have coffee, and sometimes we have other libations in the refrigerator. Um, and just kind of miss doing that, having these like face-to-face conversations in person with people. But we
Yeah,
will get there. I know we will get there. I have faith that we will get
you
there.
will.
It'll just look different.
Yeah, you're right. Right. We'll get there, but it's going to just look different. That's okay. And that's the evolution of events.
Yep.
If you didn't want things to evolve, you shouldn't be in events.
No, and it's funny when you say that you say that. I've seen so many people just like look like they've lost their mind. Like I need
Yeah.
you all to get it together, my loves, and this too shall pass.
Right.
Like I have
Yeah.
faith that this is all going to
It's like
be
take your time, have your moment, but at the end of the day, people have personal pandemics all the time.
exactly.
People get sick, people die, people have injuries,
Yes,
people have bankruptcies, people
yes.
it ish happens.
And you'll be
So
stronger. I mean,
right.
I was listening to a pastor the other day that said you have gone through something before. If
Yes.
you really think about it,
Yes.
you've had your own personal
It's not
pandemic,
this,
your
but
own
it's been something.
something else, and you're still standing.
Yes.
And as Americans, we're kind of naive and spoiled because I have friends that are from other countries. Like one of my best friends is from Pakistan. She's like, we had soldiers as police officers. There's other countries that have pandemics and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff in their country, but it's not here, so we kind of don't think about it. So
Right.
and it'll be an interesting supplement to our history books for sure.
That's a good way to put
Everything
it.
that's going on now. So
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it. It's going to be an interesting supplement, that's for sure. It's a little interesting asterisk mark.
exactly, or new textbooks that are coming through.
Right. Exactly. All right, Irene. Well, I have enjoyed this conversation greatly. And thank you for sharing, your time and all your tips and wisdom with us today. And I'm gonna wish you a lot of luck. I'm going to
Thank
keep my
you.
eye on those micro weddings for me, because I'm going to wish you a lot of success with that.
Thank you. I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how the first few
Yeah,
go.
yeah, that's going to be really, yeah, I'm going to really love to hear about that.
Yes. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for having me on today. It was fun.
Oh, absolutely. I had a blast. Thank you so much again, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, honey. Have a good one. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.